First of all, we're very saddened to hear about the tragic shooting of so many people in Orlando. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family and friends of all of the victims, as well as the first responders and the medical staffers who've had to see what evil can do and how much harm can be wrought in just a few moments by someone intent on hurting and harming and killing. We're very grateful, though, that so many others were able to escape, but know that that will still have lasting effects on them. One of the lasting effects that we don't want, though, is for them to fear being together or to fear going to events because they're afraid something similar will happen. With the fact that this is Pride Week here in Columbus, we understand that a lot of people might be concerned about the same type of thing happening here. And while I can't make any guarantees that other people won't try to harm someone in the future, I can at least allow people to rest assured that we will do everything that we can to prevent that from happening and be able to deal with it effectively if we need to. But we won't just hope, we will do. And so proactively, we'll be adding additional presence both in uniform and undercover to make sure that people see us and understand that we are there to protect them as best we can. People need to be able to get together. We do this all the time in America. We gather together in times of happiness and in times of sadness. And unfortunately, this week, our Pride events will have both happiness and some sadness as we grieve the loss of so many people in Orlando and how many others that were wounded. So it's important, though, that people have the opportunity to be together for this event. It's one of the largest events that we staff every year. It's a great weekend, and a lot of people have the opportunity to be together where they normally wouldn't, and sometimes from other cities, just because Columbus has done such a great job of organizing this and keeping people secure and safe enough to celebrate Pride Week. And it's not just the parade that we're talking about. We know that there are other activities that go on during Pride Week, and we will be at all of those. Since yesterday morning, my staff, my team has been talking and planning for how we can now deal with the aftermath of Orlando and make people feel more comfortable. So we will have additional resources available throughout the week, not just on Saturday at the parade, but throughout the week, to address some of those concerns and to show people that we are out there. In addition to the visible presence, we will have some more undercover officers that will be there to gather intelligence, to gather information, and to keep an eye and an ear on what's going on throughout the area. So that is one of the things that we think will help allow people to feel comfortable enough to continue to enjoy the activities that we have. And it's not just this week, but Red, White, and Boom and various other activities throughout the summer. It's our job to protect those people and allow them to continue to be outside and enjoy this great city of Columbus. We've been in coordination not just with our own team, but with parade organizers. That includes Stonewall's Executive Director, Carla Rothen, and the Pride Parade Coordinator, Lori Gum, who are both here with me today. And they certainly are getting a lot of questions. We've gotten some questions. What are you going to do? And we want everybody to know that, yes, we are doing something. We're paying a lot of attention. We'll continue to gather intelligence, continue to gather information throughout the week, continue to add additional presence as necessary, and be able to give people the opportunity to be a part of this and to enjoy the festival and the parade and whatever else they want to do throughout this week. So I'm willing to take any questions that you might have.
Uniformed officers, you're going to increase that. What type of uniform, bicycle, mounted patrol, and how much are you increasing it by? Are we talking possibly double?
Well, we don't like to give out our numbers because I think it's important that people understand that our tactical decision making is something that we try to keep close to our vest. But there will be a significant number more, And yes, they will be in a variety of shapes and sizes. More bikes, yes, definitely. We don't have any additional horses to, bring in all of a sudden, but we do have a good-sized mounted unit that we will be using, and you should just see a lot more of us. I mean, the parade has always had special duty officers for traffic direction and some security, but because of what's going on with the events down in Orlando, we're going to add some of our own.
Can you talk about the other agencies that you work with as well for an event like this?
It's other law enforcement agencies and the organizers of different events that we are always in cooperation with. Of course, now with this week, we're in touch with our FBI partners because we need to know if this is terror related, what intelligence they have about that. We will be staying in touch with them as well. So whatever organizer it is, or even if it's just an unplanned event, we will be talking to them and letting them know. We have a diversity inclusion liaison officer that's also been already talking to Stonewall, and he'll keep his ear to the ground as well.
What other activities? You said you'll be out at all activities this week, like what?
Well, there's the festival at the park, and in addition to that, we know that there are some private, gatherings, whether it's at a club or something else that we're going to be paying attention to. And I don't want to announce those locations because there's just no reason to. People that need to know will know how to find them.
What are you instructing club owners? Obviously, this was a club in Orlando. There's said not too great of security there. Anybody really could get in. When you're dealing with a soft target, how hard is it to have control over such a soft target?
I think in the U.S. we don't have that kind of control. I mean, people want to be free to come and go and not have to have admission tickets to every single thing. So every time that we feel that it's if there's a threat, certainly we're going to change our plans. But we don't know of a threat at this point in time. So now it's just a matter of continuing to tell everyone. And I didn't mention this earlier, but I put something out on Twitter yesterday. If you see something, say something. We have information available online that talks about how you deal with threats, active threats. And, if you hear noises, I mean, you heard on the news yesterday how many people heard what sounded like gunshots, but they didn't react because they thought it was part of the music. React. The quicker you can get away from a threat, the better you are. So in a soft target area, we want all of our citizens and our visitors to know this is how you deal with things. You don't stand around and get your camera out and start filming. Go get safety first. If you want to film later, get safe and do it from there. But we're constantly trying to educate our community through a lot of different ways, and we have information available online, and then we have other activities. Our community liaison officers are good for trying to harden targets.
But specifically bar owners, are you reinforcing or reiterating anything this week?
Well, we have not at this point in time. We certainly will get the word out through Stonewall if they think that there's a particular club or bar or something like that needs additional information. We can provide that to them.
Chief, outside of Orlando, can you address the incident in West Hollywood where it appears there was a planned attack that was thwarted before the gay pride parade? How does that? We're hearing there's no evidence to connect
Correct.
it to, but
Well,
you have to
I
play into what you're thinking and what your level of concern is leading into Saturday.
certainly. Yesterday on the news, you heard that they were unrelated. And I'm like, well, okay, but they're both related to pride events. My thing is that this is the type of information that is significant. It's so important to get an investigation. Sometimes we can judge right on the surface because if the caller makes a 911 call and says, this is why I'm doing something, then you have information. But in other cases, we don't always have that information, and it's why we sometimes have to do an investigation. So what I can tell you today is that the initial reports from West Hollywood and LA area might not match the initial reports. So, as more information comes available, it may or may not be something that was a threat. It may or may not be something that was a planned event. It might have just been a coincidence kind of a thing. But that's why we continue to stay in touch with all of our partners both locally and federally, to get the latest information. The fact that it happened in the same week that's a Pride Week for so many different cities, I think that makes it related. And then we have to find out whether or not it's combined effort, or if it's just two lone wolves and those kinds of things. But we're paying attention to both sites.
And Chief, we hear this all the time. If you see something, say something. What should stand out? What should people see that should stand out that they should say something?
First of all, packages that are left unattended. I mean, we get the warning all the time at the airport. Packages left unattended should be checked out. You know, if you've seen somebody leave something there and purposefully walk away from it, that might be a good sign. And that's when you call the police or get a police officer that's nearby and say, I just saw this, and then let us follow up on that. If you have access to 911, you see somebody that is, one of the things that happened in Boston that was very obvious is that here's this big race going on. You've got some people there, but they're not paying any attention to the race. They're doing their own thing. And so suspicious, that gut feeling is something that a lot of people already have. And sometimes it's better to act on that than to assume that somebody else will take care of it or assume that it's okay. This is not the day and age anymore to just assume that things will be okay. We can't anymore. We've got threats internally, externally in the U.S. now, and we have to be more observant and not afraid to speak up if we think that something looks out of place. People that look out of place, things that look out of place are important enough to let us know, and we can follow up.
Chief, I'm doing a Facebook Live right now, and I have comments on here, people saying that they're too afraid to attend this weekend. Would you encourage people to still come to the celebration this weekend?
We don't want people to be afraid. You know, I can't say that, walking down the streets never going to be dangerous either. I mean, people are killed in accidents all the time too. But it's important that people know that we're doing everything that we can to allow them to safely participate in all events, whether it's walking down the street or gathering together in tens of thousands of people. It's our job. We do it well. We've got a lot of experience doing this. This isn't the first time that we've ever had to do it. We've been very successful at keeping activities, large and small, safe throughout the years. And I understand those fears, but I don't want people to change the way that they live their life, because when would you ever go back to living your regular life? A week later, 2 weeks later, you might not ever get back because you would always be afraid, and I don't want people to always be afraid.
Chief, is there any dialogue about Franklin County contributing resources on Saturday?
I'm sure that if we find a void, that we'll be able to ask for help and get some from them.
But right now, CPD is doing the security.
So far, yes. Yes.
Is CPD also picking up the bill of some of these extra patrols? Can you tell us?
We're going to use some on-duty resources, yeah. And so, we'll determine how that impacts our calls for service, but we won't stop doing calls for service either. We'll somehow absorb what needs to be done, whether that's through overtime or just additional patrols that we can do on duty, directed in this particular area. But as I said, some of these activities are all over the place, so it's not just going to be for the one event.
What do you see as the single biggest security challenge on Saturday for the
Well, I truly believe that, as a parade moves, that you've got this ongoing mass of people and things like that, so there's a lot of distance to cover. But I believe that we'll have enough resources to try to cover all of that with the cooperation of all of our visitors and our residents that are attending, helping us keep their ears and eyes open and getting a hold of one of us. But you'll see a lot of people available to reach out to should the need arise.
Will you have chopper up, or will you have the towers out?
We're going to do as much as we can that's available, yes.
Time for two more questions. Have you, in your years, ever heard of any threats during Pride or any security?
Well,
concerns?
we had concerns years ago because we had people that were opposed to the parade happening. And so we've always had some issues to address, protesters basically. that were sometimes loud and very visible and maybe disruptive. So we've had to deal with those types of issues in the past. We, have never had a direct threat, to my knowledge, about someone intending to harm. People have the right to protest, and we'll do what we have to do to ensure that First Amendment rights are protected all the way around.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Just, I guess, you were talking about threats. Can you tell us a little bit of how you try and scour and look for any possible threats that might be out there?
Sure.
Because that's what I think people are most worried about.
Sure. I mean, we've got our analysts, our criminal intelligence analysts, all the time scouring a lot of different areas, whether that's on the federal level, social media, all of that information is being gathered. We've got, informants out on the street, a lot of different avenues to gather information, and all of our resources that are directed to do that have stepped that up now with a place to look, and the type of threat to look at. We're always looking, but now we know that there might be either one or two threats that came in towards, the gay community. So certainly we're looking in that direction at this point in time. All right. Thanks a lot.